Well, today we have another wonderful guest, and his name is Professor Troy Skwor. And good morning.
Thank you, Charlotte.
And you are with the university?
Correct, at Rockford University.
Rockford. And what exactly do you do there?
I'm an associate professor over there. I teach a lot of the biology subjects like genetics and microbiology, immunology, and virology.
Oh.
As well as I have an active lab there as well.
So you're with the students in the lab?
Correct.
You're not cutting up little chickens or anything?
Those are my colleagues cutting the chickens. I usually have a microscope and working in a biosafety hood and working with cells you can't see. So
oh, yes.
Pretty much the things that are invisible to the naked eye is what I specialize in.
Now tell me more, and how long have you been in Rockford?
So I've only been in Rockford, this is starting to my 6th year.
Oh, you come out of where?
Well, I'm from originally Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then I did Texas for a while to experience some warmth, and then over to California to experience the ocean.
Oh.
And over to Berkeley, and then over to Pennsylvania for a little stint, and then back to closer to my hometown over in Milwaukee. So
that's interesting.
It's been wonderful to be closer to my family. So
yes, and family you're speaking of?
Correct. Yeah, I have my parents and my older brother and his family are in Milwaukee, and my younger brher and his family.
Now, how long have you been here? About 5 years?
Correct. 5 years, yeah.
5 years, and daily, what is your office offering?
I teach some freshman labs as well as junior and senior upper level biology courses. And then I have an active research lab where the students are actually engaged in research. And it serves as an awesome experience, a good technique to allow the students to hear what I said in lecture and apply it into a real research lab.
And how much schooling did you have to take?
Whew, that dates me, I think, right?
Well.
No, I did my undergraduate at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Okay.
And I specialized in medical microbiology and immunology. And then I went to Texas A&M University over in College Station, Texas. I did my doctoral work there in the medical sciences. And then I proceeded to Children's Hospital Oakland Research Institute.
That's interesting.
In Berkeley, California. And so
now, what are you looking at in the in your mic?
In the microscope?
Yeah, microscope. I couldn't say it.
So one of my research projects involves working with actually your neighbor, the wastewater reclamation district here.
Oh, yeah.
River. So we've been working on our research project for our 5th year now, I think. We're analyzing antibiotic-resistant bacteria from the human waste that's being put back into the river.
Wow.
And trying to make sure that it's safe, and analyzing in our gut how many of the bacteria are antibiotic resistant, and could they potentially be pathogenic.
Now, can you elaborate a little bit more about that? What do you actually find? Is it positive, negative?
It's a good question. Good question. Yeah.
Or to what degree?
Right. So we're still in the early stages. We're writing it up right now for
dangerous?
publication. It's hard to answer that question. Our findings are usually on a molecular level and a micro level, and so we're not really infecting humans. And so though they may look like they could be pathogenic, there's a lot
word.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
They could cause disease in humans. But once again, if that was the case, then everyone would have disease who is swimming in the Rock River, and that's not the case. So what we try to do is, if we analyze the antibiotic-resistant strains over time, we could try to foretell maybe an epidemic or a rise in increases of infectious diseases from recreational sports.
So you work with the city of Rockford?
Or
the water department?
I was funded by the Illinois Association of Wastewater Agencies. So the state funds some of my research looking at what are the levels of antibiotic resistance in the Rock River, and then the influence of our human waste on those levels.
So what do you find presently?
We find that, I mean, I don't want to suggest too much because
No.
we're in the process of publishing it, and that
yeah.
wouldn't work so well.
Yeah.
But as a lot of the literature has already shown, the overconsumption of antibiotics by the human population, especially in the United States, has increased the level of antibiotic resistance inside of our gut, right? So it has to go somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
so it just, once again, it foreshadows the fact that if we keep overprescribing antibiotics, there will be a consequence downstream. And
I
if
see.
you've been watching the CDC, there are new strains of Escherichia coli and Neisseria that now there's looking like they've shown resistance against some of the last antibiotics that we have.
Wow, that's
So
interesting.
the overprescription and the overuse and misdisposal of it has been a very big problem.
Very interesting. Primarily, you've been doing this type of work,
For about
analyzing and
Yeah, so that's a good question. So my undergraduate work was working with malaria and trying to understand how our body responds to provide protection against malaria, or which genes or which of our inflammatory genes are responsible for providing protection. And then my doctoral work was working with tuberculosis
ooh,
and looking at new vaccines, and also, once again, what are the important parts of our immune system to provide protection against that disease.
how do you find the human element with how good we are physically? I find that we are over-medicated, over-indulging in pills that maybe we shouldn't.
You couldn't have said it better, I think. The biggest question, once again, is the further that medicine progresses, the more drugs we have, you increase the quantity of life, but you perhaps maybe lose the quality of life,
Yeah.
is what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. And some of my research studies are actually trying to veer away from the drugs. And so I have another research aspect of things that actually look for alternative treatments to both bacterial infections as well as cancer. So
That's another thing I wanted to ask you about cancer. And is it on the rise, the decline? Are they finding? Because what I've noticed that I didn't hear of so much is the children having cancer, little newborn babies. How is that?
it's a great question, and I think there's a lot of views to actually address that question in a lot of different perspectives. One is
Is it on the rise
It
with
said-
children?
I am not aware of that. I think that our detection methods are higher, so our population's bigger. So both of those variables, it's kind of hard to claim that. Unless you're looking at a specific cancer, it's hard to answer that question.
Like what?
I guess like leukemias would be one example, right? Where
Yes.
you're seeing, but I'm not aware of statistics. I don't necessarily specialize in leukemia.
Yes,
So
yes. So tell me about coming to Rockford. Was that a new experience for you?
It was. I graduated from Madison, so very liberal. I went to College Station, it was extremely conservative. I went to Berkeley, which is very liberal.
Oh
And
dear.
now I'm in Rockford. And but no, Rockford has welcomed me with open arms, and I'm been here for 5 years, and I jumped right away into jumping into nonprofits. And
Now, if anyone wanted to contact you to find more things out about the general, just in general, how can they contact you, and is there a number?
sure, well, you can email me. The email is tskwor@rockford.edu, or you can call my office, which is also 815-226-4173.
Yes,
And
that's
so you can
good.
find me online at Rockford University
That's
as well.
good.
in
And
the faculty.
your office hours are, you're there?
Oh, I'm there all the time. So if I'm there, yeah, you can track me down.
That's
so.
good. That's good. And tell me about your personal life a little bit. How did you get attracted to doing what you're doing? As a youngster,
Yeah.
going into high school.
Oof, that's dating back there. I'll let you say my parents have been good role models for me. They've been always heavily engaged in the community, always giving back to the poor, the needy, and so any of my shortcomings are not of their fault.
Well, we're not talking about
right.
that.
Good thing, right? So when I left Wisconsin, I started to engage in community outreach, and so I've been heavily engaged with working with the homeless population, working with addicts. Homeless, yeah.
Okay.
As well as, so in Berkeley, I worked with the homeless on the streets with a group called the Knights on the Streets. Dorothy Day started it. And
in what capacity were you?
Yeah, so I was a volunteer at first. Well, I still was a volunteer, but the idea was that we brought food to them on the streets rather than ostracizing them, making them go to a church, so make them feel more at home.
And what about?
But they serve as a purpose to actually get to meet the people, and it was an awesome experience. I didn't know what to expect, but I still have friendships that I keep in touch with from people who are on the streets.
And what about health? You're a professor, a doctor, so what do you see in these people, health-wise? Are they fairly healthy, being out on the street? Not really.
Probably not. No.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lack of shower, obviously.
Yes.
A lack of clean water, and especially in the winter is always rough but we have the same problems in Rockford, which is one of the reasons why I also volunteer weekly at the Rockford Rescue Mission. I've become friends with a lot of the residents there. They're awesome people. It's amazing that
you find more men than women, or?
I don't know if that's the case.
Really?
They've just increased the women's side of the rescue mission. So
in what way?
They've expanded the rescue mission to allow more residents who are female and their kids. So it's
and the children as well.
Correct.
I see.
It's a great opportunity to allow them an opportunity to start over again.
Well, we're going to have a tiny little break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to pick your brains more.
All right. Well, thank you, Charlotte.
What do all these people have in common? They all graduated from Rockford area schools. Rock forward.
Well, we're back again with our Professor Skwor. And I was going to ask you about alternative treatments against cancer and other things. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
So some of my research, we actually fell upon, so I worked with antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and one of the things we were going for is, if there's a problem with antibiotics, is there an alternative treatment?
Yeah.
And so I worked with a collaborator of mine, Dr. Janice Ells at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and she donated one of these LED lights. And so the idea being—
What is that? Hold it up.
Sure, you can see it. Basically, you just hit a button and it turns on a whole bunch of light rays. This one's blue. And so what you would hope to do is, if you had some kind of ulcer on your wrist or your forearm, that you could actually just expose your wound to the lights and perhaps use a natural chemical that gets excited in the presence of light, and then it kills the bacteria.
Wonderful.
And so my dad recently was diagnosed with some pre-melanoma issues, and so I kept telling him about it. He's not too familiar with medicine, but so I redirected my medicine to start studying melanoma. And what I found also was that the same treatment, we can actually kill melanoma cells.
Wonderful.
And so now we're using an alternative.
So may I look this? And where do you buy this? Or
this
get
you can't
this?
buy. It's not out there yet. We're just trying to get people aware of it. And if
so it can be used on any part of the body.
Theoretically,
if there was a...
Theoretically, yes. Right now, for skin cancer, for pre-malignant skin cancer, they actually use just big screens of blue lights. So it wouldn't be as small as this. But
and is this expensive?
It's roughly about $1,000.
Wow, it is expensive.
But if you think about your health care bills, that's probably not really.
Yeah.
And if you think about all the chemotherapy you get, usually you feel really lethargic and worn out afterwards. Here, all you would do is hit it with a light, and the side effects are minimal.
Well, I have to ask you again a little personal stuff, and that is I look at you and you look very healthy.
Thank you.
Do you eat organic foods or?
Ooh, I try to eat organic when possible, but I also am a pescatarian, so I pretty much eat mostly vegetables and then seafood and fish. So I try to keep it healthy. I usually make sure I eat a lot of vegetables, definitely a lot of greens, and then I work out pretty much every day. And
do you?
yeah, keeps my stress level low. So it serves both purposes.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you a pill pusher?
Oh no, I don't touch any
think
pills.
so.
Yeah.
Well, continue and tell us about some of the new thoughts that are coming out.
Sure. Well, so some of these are with the treatment, the medical treatments. That's a lot of my research. But I also, once again, I think Rockford has been a great city to really embark on and just to experience everything it has to offer. And so I've been heavily engaged with a lot of the nonprofits, like for instance, the Natural Land Institute, which is trying to preserve a lot of the land in northern
what
Illinois.
about the Rockford park system?
That's great too. We just, once again, got to make sure we preserve the land and keep allowing people to experience it. I think that's the other catch with education, is that really everything I get involved with, they all can come together. And I work with Annie's Locker, which also provides shoes to a lot of children in poor schools. And so that and education, we hope the children can experience the natural land that's over in northern Illinois and experience nature, because they'll be responsible for preserving it as they age.
Now,
right?
when you spoke of children, Kiwanis of Rockford is all geared for children and many health problems that they would have. Have you ever contacted them?
I've interacted a little bit with Kiwanis, and I give a talk to Kiwanis. It's a great organization. It's well received. Once again, I work with a lot of organizations. I think that's the greatest thing about Rockford, is that there's this long list of nonprofits that are constantly reaching out to people in Rockford. And
so your day starts at?
Usually about 4 or 5 in the morning.
Is that right?
When the brain wants to wake up, I allow it to wake up.
Really?
Yeah, I never set an alarm clock.
Oh no, and you have a wife?
No, I've somehow that passed me by. I was too busy with everything else.
Well, you're very busy. You're a busy guy. And continue and tell us more about something new that's happening. Is there?
Besides the research, like I said, a lot of my nonprofits, for Annie's Locker, we have a big drive right now called Share a Pair, where we're raising 300 pairs of shoes for Macintosh School. We've been doing this for 4 years and raising shoes, as well as we supply race waivers for...
What is that?
Race waivers is, so for instance, a lot of the people, for instance, could be at rescue mission, so that's why I volunteer there as well.
Oh.
And so a lot of the ways you can overcome addiction is just through exercise and eating healthy, right?
Yeah.
And so since I'm there, I can interact with people and work with them, talk with them, and then we can encourage them to start training for a race, but they may not have the money to run it. And so it gives them the incentive to run it, and so the Annie's Locker will waive it. They'll pay for their race membership.
Now, are there more than you in your office doing the same thing?
For the university or for my nonprofits?
For nonprofit.
But my nonprofits is a big board. We have, they're all volunteers for the most part in Annie's Locker.
That's what I thought.
Carol Bingley started it, and Jeff Wilworth is actually the president.
Oh.
I'm the vice president, and there's probably about 8 of us but we're volunteers solely. So.
Do you meet every day or?
No, we meet pretty much every month.
Yeah.
And then, so we just to make sure we get what we set out to get. Once again, the Share a Pair, we've been trying to complete that. That deadline's coming up in another week, so we're trying to raise 300. We're at about 230.
Now, the fact that you're a teacher at the college, that takes up some of your time, doesn't it?
Takes up the majority of my time.
That's what I thought. So you start work early in the morning.
Correct.
At 9.
Usually about like 6 or 7.
Oh, well, for students to come in.
Oh, correct. They're usually about 8 or 9.
Yeah, and then at that end of that day, it ends what time? At 3?
Usually about 5 or 6.
Oh, that late.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then I hurry up and get my run in.
Oh, so you're a runner. You stay healthy that way.
I try.
But you don't eat organic. too much?
I can try, but a lot of times some of our budgets don't afford it all the time,
Oh,
right?
yes, that's true. And I don't
I grow
want
it in my own house as well. I have a garden.
yeah,
so
and I don't want pesticides on my food, so I
Correct.
eliminate that. But so do you need an audience? Do you need help? Because I would say this would be somewhere where you could say to our viewing audience, if they wish to contact me, they can call my number, and you please give it.
Yeah, so my number, told you, is 815-226-4173. That's my office at Rockford University.
Okay.
You can always help donate money towards research.
Okay.
Rockford University has a lot of research. I also have collaborations over at the University of Illinois College of Medicine, working with Dr. Nana Saker and Dr. Neela Puri, working on melanoma and prostate cancer.
Wonderful.
So those are areas you can help out. The other one is Annie's Locker, once again, getting shoes to help children. Once again, we know that Rockford is trying to go through a revamp with Transform Rockford and Alignment Rockford for the education systems. But we also know that if children exercise beforehand, they can actually retain information better. A lot of that is working with kids. And then the other thing is, once again, the Natural Land Institutes. We're always looking for donations to make sure that we can preserve the natural land that we have in Northern Illinois. And these provide great resources for children to then go out and play in nature. I mean, I think that nowadays with all the children playing their video games and
Yes,
the Pokemon
yes.
Go, I mean, it'd be great if they can just look at a butterfly and look at a
Yes,
bird and
yes,
just get excited
well,
about
yes,
that, right? And
yes.
so half of that is just trying to preserve that land so they can enjoy it, and therefore they can make sure that we retain that.
The gal that runs the Natural,
Land Institute,
Yeah.
Carrie Lee.
yeah,
So you can contact Carrie Lee to help out. Our president is Mark Massey, Mark. And yeah, any of them can be contacted, but definitely Carrie Lee would be the key.
yeah.
for Kimberly.
And work.
In the Bible, it tells us that to those who much is given, much is expected. So
Well,
I
that's
would say
wonderful.
that I've been gifted with a lot, and I'm just hoping to give back a little bit to the
And
community.
you've been here in Rockford for how many years?
I've been here for 5 years.
And
So-
prior to that?
I was over in Texas and California and Pennsylvania. I also taught over in Thailand, over in Chulalongkorn University for
Wow.
about a month as a visiting professor.
Wow.
And then I did work over with Case Gama's Trust over in South Africa, working with HIV patients.
Now, where are you going from here? Have you thought about that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty invested in the community here,
Yes.
and I've been well received, and I've enjoyed my time here. So
Yes.
I don't hope to go anywhere.
That's
Hopefully
good
just get
because
more involved.
it's nice to have you here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And
Sure.
knowing your type of work, where do you see you are expanding it? Where are you going from here?
Well, once again, my primary purpose in Rockford is teaching. So I would hope that I can expand the minds of all my students and live vicariously through their lives.
All right. Yeah, now you're teaching exactly what course?
I teach microbiology,
Yes.
genetics, immunology, so how the body fights infections, and then virology and molecular biology.
How are your courses? How are your classes? Are they
I think they're
filling
well
up?
received. Yeah, they're usually fairly full. The advantage of Rockford University is that they're a small class size, so the professor can interact a lot with the students.
Wonderful.
And so the advantage, my students can read peer-reviewed research articles. We get in groups and discuss questions that don't have answers to help them think outside the box.
That's good.
We need to train them, make sure that when they leave and they graduate, that they're
Good.
prepared for what they're
Wonderful.
going to see.
Do you find that you have as many women as you have men in your
It's
classes?
pretty well balanced, I would say, yes.
And you know the story that I related to you, that I was entering college myself, and I turned to my father, who was a doctor, and I said, I would love to be a doctor. And he said, oh no, you're going to be a mother and raise babies, children. So that is a long time back, and women, sure.
That's a really interesting you said that, and I think that Rockford University, it serves as a good resource and organization for women who can defeat that same idea. I
Wonderful.
have numerous students who are actually single mothers, and they're going to school to get their degree, and they're holding a job. So
Wonderful.
It amazes me every year when I meet my students and get more and learn more about their lives, just how much they take on.
It is
So
inspiring.
it makes my life seem like, okay, I don't have as many problems as some of the other people
I
do,
know.
right? And
Wonderful, inspiring. So we've talked about alternative treatment against cancer and other diseases. What are the other diseases besides cancer, which
sure.
is?
Well, right now we're publishing a paper working on MRSA, so methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus.
Now, publishing a paper, how is that distributed?
Well, we submit it to a science journal, and
Oh, I see.
the editor reviews it, sends it out to reviewers throughout the world who are experts in our field, and then they review it, and if they think it's publishable quality, then it comes back and it gets accepted into the journal. And then if you buy into the journal, for instance, the University of Illinois College of Medicine and Rockford University has a fairly large extension of electronic journals, and so you can access it that way.
Well, I would say that our conversation has been very informative. It's been a pleasure hearing all the things that you, as one of the professors, contribute. And you'll come back again?
I hope so, Charlotte. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us all about what is in store for us.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience having Professor Skwor. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's been a pleasure here.
And for me, again, I'm going to say, we have this book, Stay Young to 100, and there'll be a phone number, and I'll sign the book by me. And I want to also say age is just a number, and agelessness a way of life. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming today.